So dermatology, where did that journey start for you?
During the 4 years of medical school, I learned that dermatology was going to be my specialty in the second year.
How has skincare changed, or the knowledge of it, over the years since you've been in the field?
I have to tell people, look, your first line of defense, you have a rosacea, your first line of defense is sunscreen.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Talkin St. Pete. I am your host, Ryan Bogdan. Before we dive into today's wonderful guest, I want to let you know that this episode is sponsored by Bogdan Homes. So if you know anyone in the greater Tampa Bay area that's looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate here in the beautiful Tampa Bay area, please find our contact information in the description below. And now, on to our amazing, beautiful guest, Dr. Carol Sims of Divine Dermatology, St. Petersburg, Florida. This has been a long time in the making, and I am so excited to dive into your world and understand and hear some amazing stories that you got going on, Dr. Sims. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, of course, of course.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes, yes. So you have a very unique practice of dermatology.
Yes,
And you bring a lot of experience.
I do.
And I think the reason I'm excited to have you on here, because a lot of people listening to this podcast live in Florida, and we have that big ball of fire in the sky that it maybe is not so good for our skin sometimes.
I know. The Florida is a blessing, and the sun is sometimes a curse.
Yes.
But I'm even here because it's the Sunshine State. I love being in a place where more than likely, if I have a day off of work, it's going to be a sunny, pretty day.
How amazing is that?
I come from Michigan, where it's a beautiful place. I love Michigan, freshwater lakes and all, but the sun is not dependable in Michigan. And after I got older and I was nearing, retirement years, some people call them, I said, I better go somewhere where it's warm and sunny, where when I get a day off, I can go somewhere and have fun and not sit in the house and be waterlogged with rain.
Yes, and you said you picked St. Pete because your grandparents were down here.
My grandparents were from here. They were married here in the 1920s, and they went north for jobs. They went north seeking jobs. Henry Ford had factories, and all these factories were coming up. And so they went up there, and they had their children up there, and I ended up being one of the grandchildren being born up there. Yeah. I won't say what year.
But then you found your way down here to the Sunshine State.
I did.
And what a blessing.
And I had gone to school in this beautiful state of California, so I knew something about good weather, Bay areas, and stuff like that. But I didn't want to go back to California. There were many reasons, but Florida, I just found out I just loved St. Pete. I just loved it.
There's a lot to love.
Yeah, and it was a nice small town at the time, St. Petersburg. When I came here in 2003, nice small town. You could park your car downtown in the parking spot and walk right into the store. And you didn't have to pay some highway robbery, parking prices and things like that. I said, this is a nice little town, nice little park. Got the western sunsets over the Gulf, just like in the San Francisco Bay Area. You got all the nice little cities around the bay, just like the San Francisco Bay Area. But you don't have those San Francisco Bay Area prices for real estate and everything. So I said, this is it. And my grandmother, she was gone, but she'd be happy up there in heaven because I'm in St. Petersburg.
She's happy you're here.
Yeah, she was a Floridian, born and bred. She was born in Sanford,
Yeah.
And somehow, came to St. Pete, and then you heard about the rest going up to Michigan.
Yeah, of course. So dermatology, where did that journey start for you?
Well, dermatology started when I was a child. I had the fortune of having a stepmother who had lost all of her hair.
Really?
And I discovered I was 7 years old when I got a stepmother. And she took me downtown shopping, window shopping we called it. And it was winter. and a gust of wind came along, and I was a little girl. I was looking at the ground, and there was this furry thing swirling around on the ground. I was like, oh, I looked up at her like, what is that? And there she was standing there mortified, holding her head like this, no hair. And there I made that discovery, and here she had to share with me that she was wearing a wig all this time and that she didn't have hair anymore
Wow.
and that it had all got taken away when she was about 19. She was in college, University of Michigan. She woke up one morning, all her hair was on the pillow.
Whoa.
I'm sure it happened a little slower than that, but
that's
yeah.
how the story goes.
And the eyelashes and the
Okay.
eyebrows.
Wow.
And
So what is that? What did she have?
She had something called alopecia universalis.
Okay.
It was the whole body.
Whoa. So she lost all of
If
her
it
hair.
was just the whole scalp, it would have been alopecia totalis.
Okay.
So I learned alopecia at that word at the age of 7.
Whoa.
And then I was a very curious kid. I had lost my own mother. My own mother had died already.
Mm-hmm.
She died at the age of 22.
Oh, whoa.
And she had 3 children already. I was the eldest. And I was like, that was a mystery too. What happened to my mother?
Yeah.
Why? How people don't usually die at that age.
No.
So, my mind was already working, solving the mystery of life and death. Then I was already introduced to a dermatologic issue. And then when my brother turned 15, he developed this horrible cystic acne, with draining pustules, disfiguring. It'll leave you with scars. And so at that time, and that was like in the 70s, at that time, they didn't have this medicine they have now called Accutane.
Mm-hmm.
He needed Accutane. He went on, and he was working at an ice cream shop when it happened. So I later realized why that happened.
He was eating ice cream.
Ice cream. Dairy and sugar is a very big culprit for acne. Dairy and sugar.
Okay.
And ice cream has both of those.
Listen up, folks.
And
Dairy
he
and
was
sugar.
he was eating it. He was probably eating a half a gallon a day because he was a big eater, little guy, big
He's a
eater,
big eater, and he's working in the
cystic
shop.
acne. And now he's a 70-some-year-old man, and he still has those scars.
Oh, wow.
But I can treat people now in my practice who come in with cystic acne. I can right away get them on Accutane, and they don't have to have scars for the rest of their life, which, kind of people discriminate against folks with scars. They don't want to hire folks with scars on their face, things like that. It's very, your self-esteem suffers when you're in high school and you got cystic acne, and the other kids have clear skin.
Right.
So anyway,
Okay, so
those were some of the things.
Yeah, this
And when I
started
got
early for you.
Yeah. So when I ended up in medical school, because I didn't go to college till I was 28, I was trying to find out what I was going to do,
Yeah.
And I was a telephone operator for Pacific Bell.
Neat.
I was an information operator. I knew the whole telephone book by heart, practically speaking. So I was like, I couldn't be too dumb. And then people would call for Macy's at Saramonte or Tanforan or whatever shopping center. I knew all those numbers. Anyway.
Oh, you were funny.
Yeah, and so I decided to go to college because after selling vacuum cleaners and sewing machines and being a telephone operator, I was like, you know what, I'm good at all these jobs, but that's not what I want to do for the rest of my life. And I was reading these nutrition books. I want to be a nutritionist. And so I started at the College of San Mateo, which is a junior college. But it was like a 4-year school. It was so beautiful, big old campus, good counselors. And I started taking things like chemistry and zoology, and I was in classes with these pre-med people. And I was pre-nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
But when we would get into study groups, they were looking at me for the answers. So I was like, you know what? I'm helping these people learn chemistry and zoology. Maybe I should be pre-med. And I started talking to my counselors. They said, yeah, because if you're a nutritionist, all you can do is counsel people on nutrition.
Right.
You can't touch them. You can't tell them anything else about anything else. And so you should go to medical school. My counselors told me that.
That was a big move.
They were right. They
Yeah.
were right. I was. That's where I was supposed to be. And if I chose to, counsel in a lot of nutrition in my medical practice, so be it. So, but anyway, um, in the after I finished college at San Mateo and I went to San Francisco State and got the bachelor's degree, I was accepted into medical school right away. You
That's
know,
fantastic.
yeah.
Wow.
And I had a choice of medical schools. It was wonderful. I wanted to stay right in San Francisco, but the first school that accepted me was UCLA, and I was like, I'm not going to move to LA, am I? Or Irvine,
Yeah.
beautiful places, but then finally I got accepted by UCSF, San Francisco University of California,
Hmm.
San Francisco, which is one of the top 5 medical schools in the nation. I was so happy because I didn't really have to move,
Right. You were right there.
and I already had a child,
Oh.
and so I didn't have to move, and she didn't have to change her schools. I just went down the street to another school, and in 4 years, I well, in during the 4 years of medical school, I learned that dermatology was going to be my specialty in the second year, because that's when we got the first dermatology courses, and I was like, "Whew, I can relate to this." Photographs,
You understood it.
diseases flashing up on the screen. I was like, you can tell what that disease is from the door, you know. And there's a lot of photography, a lot of surgery, a lot of all ages, uh, women, men. Um, it was my cup of tea because I'm surgical, I'm artistic, I'm visual,
Hmm.
and I have a good memory. All those things that you need in derm. And so it was just a slam dunk.
So you felt aligned. You had it all figured out then.
The only thing is, where was I going to get that residency?
Mm,
Because
yeah.
everybody says, you're not going to get no residency in dermatology. Think again. And so I was like, well, you all think again. Because what was happening was I was in California and I was having to apply for internships somewhere. And I said, well, I'm going to apply for them in Michigan, where I'm from. And so residencies come right behind that. And you have to apply for your residency pretty much at the same time, just on a hope and a wish and a prayer that you're going to get in. So I applied to the 3 residencies in Michigan: University of Michigan, Henry Ford Hospital, and Wayne State University. And I got in Wayne State. I lucked out. And so I had, it was just, and when I got in Durham, I was like, yeah, this is where I'm supposed to be.
And
Because
you became the chief resident at Wayne State.
yes, in my last year of residency, I became the chief resident. I did. It was funny because when I was a first year resident in Durham, there were third year residents asking me, "What is wrong? What do I give this patient?" And I was like, "You don't know what to give that patient? Give him such and such." Because it's not, derm is not into. Everybody can't do dermatology.
Why is that?
Some people are just really, really smart, but they're dumb when it comes to dermatology.
Mm.
And they'll see somebody with a skin cancer and give them an antibiotic. And
Oh,
you don't do that. You give them some surgery.
right.
So it was like some of them were really smart, but they kind of didn't know how to do derm right away. It,
Yeah.
it takes some
But it
time.
came
It
a little
takes
natural for
it
you.
came natural, and of course there's lots and lots and it's very academic. So there's lots and lots of thicker and thicker books with lots and lots of information and pictures. So if you're real academic, you can pass those tests and stuff. But that doesn't mean that you know how to deal with that dermatologic patient.
Right.
And they'll come in sometimes. I'll have a person crying. They'll come in there, hair loss. Hair loss will make a grown woman cry. I have them really frustrated, crying, and come in with bags full of hair. Like, this is what I lost today, and everybody's hair loss is a little different from the next person.
Hmm.
So some people, for instance, have hair loss. Like my stepmother had that alopecia uh, universalis. That's autoimmune.
Mm.
That came from her own white blood cells that launched a war on her
Against her
hair
hair.
follicles, against her hair follicles. Okay, so ultimately, when she ended up leaving this world years later, she had developed vitiligo too.
What's that?
Vitiligo is where the white blood cells launch a war against your pigment cells,
Oh.
and then you end up with these white islands of skin with
Hmm.
no pigment,
Yep.
which it's very disfiguring for a person who has deeply pigmented skin,
Hmm.
because you can see them from a mile away where they've lost pigment. Somebody who's fairer skin like yourself, you might not notice it that much, but she noticed it, and
Hmm.
her brother had that.
Oh.
So then I was like putting all them pieces of the puzzle together. That was autoimmune. Her brother, and it was thyroidal. Her brother had the thyroid disease too.
Got it.
And so thyroiditis and all that can cause the loss of pigment, loss of the hair, and stuff like that.
So, what are some of the most common dermatological issues?
Some of the most common dermatologic issues, like acne, um, can be heartbreaking. So we already touched on that with the Accutane patient, the person that
Mm-hmm.
needs Accutane. Then you have the middle-aged woman who all of a sudden has acne, never had acne before in her life. That's hormonal acne in her, and she can be very upset about it. So you have to treat stuff like that. The eczema, the itching eczema, uh, genetically derived, itchy, sensitive skin, we see a lot of that, and that's related to asthma. It's related to hay fever. It's all on one gene:
Okay.
asthma, hay fever, eczema. And in the family, one family member might have the asthma, the other family member might suffer from the itching, allergic skin type,
Wow.
and then mom might have only had the allergic rhinitis, the hay fever part, but she passed that gene down
Yep.
to the
And
kids,
it shows
and
up
they show
differently.
in differently. A couple of the kids might have hay fever and eczema together. They
They really get it. Yeah.
exhibiting all of it. So they have to be. We have sometimes we have to patch test them and let them know what some of the things are that they need to stay away from.
How common?
Common things.
How common is rosacea?
Rosacea is pretty common.
I have some in my family.
I see lots of bright red people. And in Florida, you see even more because the sun worsens rosacea.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to tell people, look, your first line of defense, you have a rosacea. Your first line of defense is sunscreen
Put your sunscreen on.
every day. Every day. I have on SPF 50 right now.
Yeah.
Right now, every day.
Can't even tell.
Like I tell my patients, every day, every day, every day. You know, put it right next to the toothbrush.
I started using lotion that has SPF in it.
Good.
So yeah.
Good.
So I'll be a good patient.
Yeah, and in Florida, you want a minimum of 30. And when you go into the beach, you want to have some 50 on. And it should have some zinc in it.
Yeah.
It should have some zinc oxide in it. Otherwise, it's a little too chemically for you. You want a couple chemicals, but you want zinc oxide in there too.
Got it.
Yeah.
And so for the rosacea, just because it hits my ass, what would be some remedies for that?
Oh, wonderful. Nowadays, we have a couple of wonderful prescriptions for rosacea. One of them is, get this now, it's ivermectin in a cream.
Mm.
And ivermectin, uh, used in higher doses, we use for scabies and mites and things. Well, there's a little mite that sometimes lives in the oil glands of the rosacea patient. So this medication, Sulantra, helps those people
Got
who
it.
are like oily, greasy rosacea people a lot of times and bumpy.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have your just red when they drink a glass of wine, just red. Those people, many of them without the bumps, many of them need something we call Rofade.
Rofade.
Rofade is a new prescription which used daily. After a while, it will have shrunk those blood vessels to the degree that you don't even need the Rofade anymore.
Oh wow.
So it's kind of like a cure for the dilated blood vessel capillary, red
Yep.
capillary
Yep.
rosacea person. And the third thing is a lot of times an oral anti-inflammatory antibiotic like doxycycline is given to these people
Mm-hmm.
to take on a daily to keep inflammation down.
Damn. Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone had told me that they heard of sulfur soap.
sulfur can be helpful,
As in,
especially for those oily, greasy,
yeah.
you know, people, because sulfur is drying and is an antibiotic.
Okay.
Okay, so it's not for every rosacea person, not for that dry rosacea person.
Got it. So if you got the oily stuff.
Yes.
Okay. So
Hmm.
for the fam listening, there you go.
There you go.
Okay. So you're seeing all kinds of patients, but I know you're, I mean, you went over what you see most common. But you're not working so much now, right? You're trying to work less?
Well, you know, you come to a time in your life when you go, well, I need to smell a few more roses before I get too old to smell.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna take a few days off per week and let the young bloods take care of the clinic, and I'll be in there a couple of days a week,
Hmm.
providing leadership, providing, uh, some knowledge and stuff. And it's what's good is we have a little competition going now. How many more melanomas have I found this year than they have found?
Oh, looking for
You
that.
know, we're because you know you got to find those. Otherwise, a person's going to walk around with it for a while and might metastasize.
Mm.
You know, and
So for
so
those that aren't super familiar, go through what is melanoma?
okay, melanoma is one of the types of skin cancers that we see in our clinic, and it's one of the more dangerous ones. We have a couple others that are less dangerous, but melanoma is pigmented, usually darkly pigmented, with melanocytes that are malignant. And sometimes it'll come from a mole that'll go bad. It'll just become malignant. Maybe it
Mm.
got sunburnt one too many times and becomes malignant melanoma. And thing is to try to catch it before it metastasizes. And sometimes the melanoma will come out of the blue. There won't be a mole there, but all of a sudden there's this black thing there. That's a de novo melanoma, maybe genetically derived. The person was going to get melanoma um, through their genes, and so you
So
got to
it's
be.
genetic?
It can be. Sometimes melanoma will arrive, from a. You've seen people with these quote liver spots.
Yes.
They call them liver spots. They're really big freckles, big sun freckles. So they're not from the liver at all. They're from the sun. But every now and then we'll get one of those that will become a superficial melanoma. The
Interesting.
pigment starts drifting outside the freckle and it looks like a weird, strange one. And my eye will catch it because I see spots in my sleep. I see spot, as soon as somebody walks in the room, I'm scanning
You're
them.
looking.
Got that mole on your neck,
Yep.
on your cheek and all.
Yeah.
And I'm just talking, but I'm
No,
also
you're
noticing.
looking. That's
And
just
then,
what you do.
yeah, and then, and if it's somebody that I'm doing a body check or I'm doing something else on them, like a surgery, and I keep looking at that same thing over and over again, caught my eye first. I'm like, that's got to go. We have to biopsy that. And 9 times out of 10, it'll be a melanoma or something like that. A dysplastic nevus that's becoming melanoma right
Ye-
before our very eyes.
Yes.
So
You got the natural look
I
for it.
have I got the
The
eye
eye
for
for it.
it,
Yeah.
and it's hard to teach, but I think I have a couple of proteges in my office that have picked up on it.
Well,
'Cause
yeah, we were talking about that.
yeah,
That's
they're
pretty good. Yeah.
they've found as many as I have this year.
Okay.
Hmm.
So you're
Hmm.
training well.
I'm training well. And then there's all these other kind of skin cancers, the basal cell and squamous cell carcinomas that are very, very plentiful. And what does that come from, Ryan?
The sun?
The sun. We know what those come from. And the funny thing about it is I have a lot of elders too, and they'll be sitting there getting their body checked, and I'll say, "Ooh, that looks like a squamous basal cell." They'll tell me, "But I'm not in the sun." I'm like, "But were you in the sun when you were a kid?" "Oh yeah, all day." I
Right.
said, and did you when you grew up? Did you spend time in the sun? "Oh yeah, my husband and I had a boat." And I'm like, "Do you play tennis or racquetball or anything? Oh yeah, but I stopped playing tennis about 10 years ago. I'm not in the sun anymore. I said, but all that sun you got over the first 50, 60 years, this is the cumulative, sign of it here. This basal cell here. You got sun when you were young, so our exposure starts when we're kids.
One of my questions was going to be what are some common misconceptions, and so you're
Mm-hmm.
nailing one right there. That
Mm-hmm.
this is a cumulative thing that happens over your lifespan.
Right. Cumulative. And many people were raised on farms. They were about picking fruit when they were kids. They were working when they were kids. They
Mm.
they got a lot
And
of
not wearing
sun.
sunscreen.
Not wearing sunscreen, because when I was a kid and when most of my patients were kids, there was no real good sunscreen. In fact, it was oil. There was suntan oil,
It
and
did the opposite.
it did the opposite. And it was a SPF 4,
Wow.
which
What?
is nothing.
Yeah. What does that SPF mean?
Sun protection factor.
Okay.
hmm So it's really, you know, it's really come around full circle now that we're in the 20s. We've got some pretty good sunscreens now, sun blocks, with the zinc oxide or titanium
So is
dioxide.
there a difference between 50 and 100? Because I've heard there's a
Not
rule.
a great difference.
Okay.
Not
Yep.
not not a whole 50% difference.
Got it.
Not a whole 100%
Yep.
difference. No,
Yep.
just a little bit more. So I don't tell people go buy SPF 100. Come on. They can go and buy it at the drugstore. There's various brands, and it'll be a whole list of chemicals. Okay. Now that list, there won't be any zinc oxide in it, and there won't be any, or titanium dioxide won't be in it either. And you'll be okay. So this is a chemical sunscreen. It's 100. So I put it on now. But in 2 hours, I have to reapply it because it will be totally dissipated. Because chemicals dissipate after 2 hours.
Got it.
Whereas if there's some zinc in it or titanium or both, it's still stuck on you
It's gonna hang
for
out.
hours.
It's gonna hang out.
Mm-hmm.
So I've heard some um, theories that there's sunscreens that are causing the skin cancer, and it's not the sun. Have you ever heard that?
No. I mean, I've heard people talking about sunscreens hurting the ocean. The
Yes.
coral reefs.
Right.
Those chemical sunscreens.
Yes. I've heard that.
I've heard that, but I haven't heard unless people are saying, well, I put on sunscreen and then I went out and cavalierly got a whole lot of sun thinking, oh, I got on sunscreen, so therefore I'm good.
hmm
And that might happen.
So it is the sun exposure.
It is the sun exposure.
So what about diet and skin? We might touch on that a little bit before. What are some other things that are causing issues with our skin and diet?
Well, back to rosacea, your spicy foods can actually really cause rosacea to erupt, and certain foods are not good for rosacea. And of course, acne with the sugar and the dairy. With eczema, there are certain foods that those people probably need to stay away from, but it's an individual thing. One of those people need to stay away from tomatoes and strawberries. The other one needs to stay away from nuts and shellfish. And then there's that group of eczema people that need to stay away from eggs and milk.
So is it like an
And
allergy then?
it's kind of they have an allergic genotype, because when you think about it, the allergic rhinitis, that's allergy to the pollens in the air. That's the hay fever.
hmm
The wheezing of asthma, that's allergy too, to sometimes pollens in the air and things in the air. And then with the eczema part, the people are sensitive to things that are in lotions, in detergents,
Yep.
in fabric softener sheets that go in the dryer. They can't, they need to stay away from fragrance. They need cheer free, all free, Tide free, Downy free, Bounce free, anything
All
in
the
the
freeze.
detergent
Yeah.
that's free of dye and free of perfume. That's what they need.
Yep.
They need Dove soap. It's free of perfume, free of dye. White Dove.
Yep.
You know, those kind of people have we have to worry about their foods.
How has skincare changed, or the knowledge of it, over the years since you've been in the field?
Well, it has changed tremendously. When I first became a dermatologist in uh, 1984, I guess you might say, um, the dermatology was more or less a medical field where patients came, they had office visits, they may need a biopsy, they would get a biopsy, but if there was any other surgical thing that was going to take place, they got sent to some kind of surgeon or something. Um, Now, and also at that time, Retin-A was just being invented, Accutane was just being invented, lasers were just being invented. They just had come out, and it was a dermatologist that invented a laser
Mm.
and learned how to do laser and taught laser. And things like fillers, like collagen and stuff, were just coming into knowledge. We didn't have the hyaluronic acid fillers yet,
So what do
so
you
it
need
was a
fillers
medical
for?
field.
What do you need collagen fillers for? What does that do?
Those fillers, they put them in the wrinkles
Yeah. Oh,
and
okay.
help people look younger.
Oh, got it.
Botox wasn't out yet
Got
back
it.
then.
Mm-hmm.
So as I went through my training, which was 4 years of training, then Retin-A came out. Well, they noticed, hey, we're using this on people for acne, but they're coming back with fewer wrinkles. So the next thing Retin-A was all the rage. Everybody wanted it for their wrinkles, and so they started coming to dermatology for wrinkles. And then collagen injections came out around the same time, and they wanted collagen in their lips. They wanted bigger lips. They wanted less, laugh lines and all this kind of stuff. And next thing you know, and then lasers started working on these people's birthmarks and stuff with lasers and stuff, and dermatology started becoming a cosmetic specialty. And then people started coming into dermatology just to do surgery,
Mm.
and they would do the whole dermatology residency, and then they would do an extra year in what they call Mohs surgery.
What's that?
Mohs is where um, after a skin cancer is found, a basal or squamous, they get sent to Mohs for a type of surgery where just a thin layer of the cancer is taken off at a time. A thin layer is looked in the microscope, and then if it's not all out, another thin layer is taken out
They keep
till they
checking.
finally get to the last cancer cell, and then they go, okay, the cancer's gone. Now we can close. Sometimes the hole's too big to close. Now they got to send them to a plastics.
Yeah.
But anyway, Mohs is alive and well to this day. It's been overused, in my opinion, because I think it's great when you have Mohs surgery. You have a big old skin cancer in the middle of your face, and you have that Mohs cancer surgery, and they only take the cancer out. They don't take your whole nose off.
Right.
Same for your ear,
Yeah.
and cosmetically important places, right here and all
Mm.
that kind of stuff. But when they started doing Mohs on your arm and on chest, you don't need Mohs on those places. We could do, blunt surgery.
Right.
We do frozen sections in my office where we take the skin cancer off, and the lab is there in the parking lot in a mobile unit. The specimen goes out to them. They freeze it and slice it, and they tell me if I have it all out yet. That's what I do.
That's how you take
And
care of
yeah,
it. Yeah.
so then I can close. So in fact, I'm an excellent dermatologic surgeon, and I've taught my two other providers, Dr. Alex and Taylor, the PA. They're excellent dermatologic surgeons, and you don't have to go through a Mohs fellowship for all that. We just do a lot of surgery
You do.
and a lot of biopsies, a lot of cysts, a lot of boils, a lot of abscesses.
Mm. Okay. A lot of stuff. I mean, you guys have to have a tough stomach to go through some of that.
It's not pretty sometimes.
Yeah.
And
Look, I'm squeamish. I'll go down. Yeah.
sometimes we have to have on some protective wear
Yeah.
because you can get splashed
Oh,
in the face.
no. Doctor says be careful. I
You
might go down.
I'm sorry,
Yeah,
but
no.
dermatology is not for the squeamish.
No,
It's
I
not.
would
It's
not.
not
I would not make it.
It's not glamorous like that. It's a wonderful specialty, and I don't usually get calls at midnight. I don't have to be up all night
Right.
with phone calls and people, but it's not. Sometimes it's not glamorous. Sometimes people will have growths on their privates,
Oh yeah.
and we have to handle it and take care of it and make sure it's gone and follow up and have them come back, make sure it's really gone.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, you've seen it all, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I can't imagine.
40 years.
The stories you have.
40 years.
The stories you
Yeah.
have.
Yeah. And my daughter, who was 7 years old when I started college, she's a middle-aged lady now. She's in her 50s.
Yeah, she's watched the whole thing happen.
Unfortunately, she did not go into dermatology because I would have loved to have just passed the practice down to her.
Yeah, yeah. So what is your plan now as you're not in there every day, or you want out? When do you think you'll ever stop completely?
Well, my mentor, Dr. Hashimoto, my chief of dermatology, that accepted me into dermatology and taught me, he didn't stop until he was 90. Quite a scientist. I don't know. I think I'll go probably till I'm 80, and then give the reins over. But you don't. When you're in derm, guess what? If you still have your memory,
Mm-hmm.
you know a lot, and the young people need to be like right up under you, and so you can teach them.
Right.
This is what this looks like, and so when you get this again, this is what you do. And so then they never forget it, and then you can go on and teach the next. So the older people like myself are the teachers.
Yeah. Well,
Mhm.
you. I mean, you have
Mhm. Yeah.
how many hundreds of patients? Thousands.
Oh, thousands
Thousands.
over the
It's
years.
thousands of all that experience. I mean, that's you can't teach that. I mean, you can, but you have to
Right.
go through it.
Right. Experience is worth a lot. And sometimes, a lot of times, we'll have patients who will come in and they will stubbornly put their foot down and they'll be like, I'm not going anywhere until I want to see Dr. Sims. And so, or they'll wait for several months for an appointment because
Yeah.
they want the experienced doctor.
Right.
They don't trust the young doctors. And but I have to, tell them, look, these young people, they know some stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, you've been teaching them.
They
Yeah.
know things.
Yeah.
You know.
Shifting gears a little bit, you talked about St. Pete changing in terms of going from small to big. How do you feel about that?
Um, I like the small town better. I don't like the traffic jams on my favorite streets that used to be nice and streets that were back streets that I used to take. Now I'm sitting in lights on those streets.
Which streets are those?
Like 37th Street instead of 34th,
Right, right.
Like I shouldn't tell you all my secret streets.
It's okay.
But, but anyway, they're not secret.
Yeah.
It's just too much traffic on 34th Street for one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Too much traffic on 4th Street. Too much traffic on 9th Street.
Yep.
And then they've narrowed the streets down to accommodate the bike lanes.
You're right.
And the poor cars don't have anywhere to go. So, and I just think that the high rises downtown, it's been too much. It's like every square foot of land that was grass or, a little, I thought was a park. Now it's like a big old high rise.
There's
and
more coming.
All those people going to be in it. They're going to pour out at 8 a.m. and pour onto the freeways and all. I don't know about the infrastructure. I don't know how the sewer system's going to keep up. And it has me thinking about, well, what am I going to do? Am I going to stay here in my house and or am I going to go out in the boonies and find a place out in the boondocks?
Out in the boondocks. What do you think? What are you leaning towards? If you had to say now.
Well, I have a nice house, big house, but if I could get a good price, I might think about moving to the boondocks.
Might go to the boondocks.
Yeah,
There's a little less traffic.
I might move to the boondocks.
Yeah.
I often thought about how those people cross that bridge every day, come hell or high water, but I might be one of those. I don't know if I can get the right price.
Well, I might know a guy get you the right price. Yeah.
I know. I was talking to somebody yesterday. He was guaranteeing me he knows all the people in the country.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway,
So
those are the things you
you
think about.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, have
But my
you
neighborhood has not been in too much of a flux. In fact, this one guy who had a huge house, uh, who died, they were going to turn that lot into like 34 condos. Uh, but somebody came and bought it and stayed in the
kept
one
it,
house
kept
that's
it.
there. I was like, thank you, Lord, because 34 condos on a little street, that changes the whole
It
street,
does change the whole street.
and
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, it's funny to not funny, but interesting to watch the growth of this area
Mm-hmm.
and how
Mm-hmm.
quickly it's happening.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't been here terribly long, and it's changing as I've seen it. So I can't imagine. You've been
Right.
here. You know,
Since
the,
2003,
okay, so
I did
20
a
years
back
now.
and forth for a while, but
Hmm.
yeah, and the downtown, it's hard to even see sunlight anymore because the big tall buildings are going to block out sunlight. You know what I mean? They're going to see the bay until somebody builds a taller building in front of them.
Right.
You know,
Yes, and the next 3 years, the skyline will change even more because there's all the projects that are started now. That's when they'll be completed.
jeez.
Yeah, so there's some big buildings going up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Do you know about 400 Central is where the cheese grater building used to be,
Wow.
and
Yes.
that's going to be
Yes.
the tallest residential building on the west coast of Florida.
Wow. Well, so is that going to be apartment building
It's
or
at condos, over
condos?
300 condos.
I wonder what they're going to go for.
I know what they're going for.
What?
Well, they started around 8-9. Now you can't get in there probably for less than 1 mil.
So where are all these people coming
New
from with
York.
1 mil? Okay, they're coming from New York.
Yep.
Okay,
Mhm.
and so what gets me, I get them in my practice because they're like, "Oh, we're just coming down from New York and we're looking for a new dermatologist." I'm like, "Welcome, let me see your skin," and then. When I see their skin, it looks like they've been living in Florida the whole time because oh yeah, well, we always vacationed in Florida.
Uh-huh.
And so I find just as many skin cancers on them as the Floridians.
Right, because they're down here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like you
Mm-hmm.
said, it's the amount of exposure doesn't
Mm-hmm.
through the whole of your life. That's really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I think skin is obviously important, and it's interesting that you say how now being the cosmetics that
Yes.
you had to roll into that as the years
Yes.
of dermatology has changed. So,
Yes.
what are some of the common things besides removing skin cancer that your practice does?
Hmm. Well, we repair earlobes that are split and torn. We we inject biologic substances into scalps to help people grow their hair or keep the hair that they've got and thicken it up. Uh, we do quite a few warts and the viral virus kind of things, warts and condyloma, I call them. Condyloma are warts on the genitals. Let's see what else. We have quite a few people with rashes and contact dermatitis under their arms or places where, strange places. They might have to stop using the current deodorant.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, people, people will have lots of fungus, lot of fungus among us.
Fungus among us.
Oh my
Oh no!
God. There's quite a lot of fungus, okay?
What like?
Either it's going to be in the nail, in the toenails,
Yeah.
or it's going to be in between the toes. Okay. That's athlete foot fungus.
Yeah.
Okay. But it can get in the toenail and that's a permanent home for that fungus.
Ugh.
And then you see those old folks, those old thick yellow crusty toenails.
Yeah.
That's all fungus,
Ugh.
And then or the fungus can be in the groin, which is quite itchy, jock itch.
Yeah.
And it can be up under the boobies, heavy breasts. They'll have like fungus and yeast up underneath them, or under the belly folds, because a lot of people have a big belly and a fold under there. That's where the fungus loves to be. The yeast loves that too.
In all the hot, wet spots.
Yeah. There's a yeast that loves to be on the back, and the chest and the back, and it makes people look like they're polka dot. They have like polka dot light spots on their skin, and that's a yeast that's very common. We call it tinea versicolor. And then you have the fungus in the head, the head with the fungus, the tinea capitis, or the ringworm fungus. You know.
I used to wrestle, so I'm familiar with
Yeah.
ringworm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there you go.
That's the only fungus. Out of all those, that's the fungus I was exposed to.
Well, that was one of the things about dermatology that I like too. Is like Microbiology is very heavy in dermatology. You know, you got to know your bacteria and your yeast forms and your viruses and your fungal forms.
There's a lot. There's a lot to
There's a
know.
lot of that.
Yeah.
And then you got to know a lot about bugs.
About bugs.
About bugs. Yeah, yeah. And in fact, there was a lady that came in last week, and I was doing her body check, and I got to her back, and there was this black mole on her back, and I was looking at the black mole, and all of a sudden it was moving.
What do you mean it was moving?
I was like, I got my scope out, got close to it, and it had some little legs hanging out of it. It was a tick.
Tick.
It had
Oh.
dove into her skin, but all it was hanging out was the
legs.
legs. And I was like, lady, were you in the woods? She said, oh yeah, we were hiking yesterday. I said, well, you brought a tick back with you.
Well,
I
good thing she
did.
came to see you.
It's a good thing she came for the body check.
Yeah.
Right. So, you know, that's how you get Lyme disease. You know, it's from
Yeah.
tick. It's a tick-borne illness.
Right.
You know, and you need antibiotics for that.
So did you pull it out?
Yes, I did. I pulled it out. I put it in the jar so she could see it. You know, because sometimes people don't believe you.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you tell me this mole's moving. What is going on?
Yeah. And so that reminds me of my very, very first patient when I was first started dermatology. They put me in the VD hospital in Detroit. It's called Herman Kiefer Hospital. And that VD hospital, you know, there was a woman's side and a men's side. They put me on the men's side to see the men patients. And so my first patient came in the room, it was a young man. I said, okay, young man, I'm Dr. Sims. What's going on? What's bothering you? Well, he goes, I'm just itching a little bit, that's all. I'm like, okay. I said, stand up, drop your jeans. Let's see what's going on. He goes, ain't they got no men doctors around here? I'm like, no. I'm it today. I'm the doctor today, so let's see what's going on. He dropped his jeans. He dropped his shorts. And there were some bugs that were teeming. He had so many in his crotch hairs. They were like teeming, like you could see them moving together. These were crab lice.
Oh,
crab
man.
lice. And he had spots of blood all on his underwear
You're just
from it.
itching a little bit.
Now you know he was itching. And then I said, and I noticed on his lip he had a fever blister. So he had herpes. And then
Oh, homie needed to.
at the tip of the penis there was pus. So he had gonorrhea. So he had gonorrhea, he had crab lice, and he had herpes, and he was in the VD. I said, who was your last sexual contact?
And how many?
He says, well, I didn't know the broad.
Oh.
He goes, I didn't know her name. I just met her at the bar. I'm like, oh, my God, we can't even contact her. And so, you know, he had 3, venereal diseases at once. Okay.
And that was your first
that
patient?
was my first patient.
Man, welcome to the industry.
First day in dermatology. I said, wow, what a specialty.
Yeah.
And tell me they don't need dermatologists because we got to take care of ED, we got to take care of syphilis and stuff like that.
Oh, man.
Syphilis.
Oh, man.
These in the program that I went to, that I did my dermatology residency, Wayne State University Department of Dermatology and Syphilology. That's the name of the department.
Wow.
Because syphilis was a big part of it for a long time, and because syphilis is the great mimicker, the great imitator. People who have syphilis, they have all kind of other kind of symptoms that you wouldn't think of syphilis with, like like a rash, like an itch, a rash, or like they start losing some of their hearing and senses and things. And that's when it's really gone into tertiary syphilis. It's in the brain now.
I am learning so much today.
Mm-hmm. So I'm glad.
Yes.
I'm glad.
You are full of knowledge.
And you should come to our office and get a skin exam one day.
Yeah, you know what?
We're going to look at all your moles.
I need to make sure that none of them are moving. Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So what's so other than wear sunscreen, is there anything else that people can do on a regular to take care of their skin?
Well, there are sun protective clothing because a lot of us don't feel like putting sunscreen all over our arms and everything. Mm-hmm. So there are a couple of companies, Coolie Bar and Solumbra, just to name a few, that have SPF 50 in the clothing.
Oh,
So that's a wonderful thing. And so you want to invest in that. I wear that in the pool. My swimsuit comes from my neck down to my ankles, and it actually covers the back of my hand too, and my neck. And then I wear a hat from the same company, so I'm like protected.
yeah, you're extra
And so I'm in
protected.
the pool protected pretty much. Then what else? Stay in the shade. Stay in the shade when you can. You're still getting UV, but try to stay in the shade. What else? Stay, pick your times when you're gonna go get in the pool. Like go in the pool before 10 a.m. and then during the midday, get out. Go back. You can go back in the pool from 5 on because the
So
sun
so
is not as
strong.
high in the
Well,
sky.
most people in Florida are not doing that. They're not even up yet.
They're not paying attention. A lot of them.
No.
When I drive down Gulf Boulevard, I see people who are red as lobsters heading back to the beach.
Yep.
I'm like, why are they going back to the beach?
Well, I know. You know when there's someone on vacation on the beach because they do look like a lobster. You're right.
They do.
Or you can see you missed that spot with the sunscreen. You're right.
I feel so bad for some of the kids because I know they go home burnt.
Oh yeah.
And there are some what do you call them? Vitamins
Mm-hmm.
to help protect your skin.
What are
Um, in fact, we have them at our business. They're vitamins that you take them by mouth, especially if you work in the sun, like you're a roofer
they? Mm-hmm.
or you dig ditches in the sun, building highways and stuff. You need those kind of vitamins. Um, but I've forgotten the brand
Yeah.
name of them, but we have them at our business at Divine
The
Dermatology.
Divine Dermatology. Stop by. Check them out.
Divine with an I, Divine.
Some people spell it with Y.
Some people spell Divine Devine with a De.
Oh.
Like
D-E.
there was an actor Andy Divine.
Got it.
And that's usually a person's last name.
Yes.
Divine
Yes.
with an E.
No, I like the name.
Mm-hmm.
I like the name.
Yeah, it comes from God. Comes from the good Lord who sent me down here.
To do the good
I
work.
said, "Why are you sending me down there, Lord?" Don't worry about it. Just go.
Okay, so when you're not looking at people's skin and helping us out there, what do you like to do in St. Pete?
Well, I like to walk my dog around the block, have a cute little cockapoo.
Nice.
And she's 17 years old now, so I'm trying to spend her last few years as close to her. I take her to work with me too.
Do you?
Mm-hmm.
That's nice.
I like to go. I do like to go and watch the sunset on the beach. I like just to go down, get ice cream cone,
Yeah.
and sit there and try to keep the birds from coming by and taking my ice cream cone because that happened one time. Those birds sweep
No,
down.
they
They
do. They'll
swoop
get
down.
you. Those
Yeah,
seagulls will come out and get you.
I love that.
What beach do you like to go to?
I like St. Pete Beach.
St. Pete Beach?
And just 2 weeks ago, I have two children, and one of them got married on Upham Beach, St.
Oh,
Pete Beach.
nice.
We had the wedding
Well,
2
congrats.
weeks ago. Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, St. Pete Beach.
That's a great spot.
Yeah. So my children. I like to entertain them when they come to town.
Where they live now?
One daughter, the oldest daughter, lives in Atlanta, Georgia, with her husband and my grandson. The other daughter lives in Dallas, Texas, with her family.
Okay.
Her new family.
They're spread out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they get to come visit.
So they come visit mom, and I try to convince them, don't you want to move to St. Pete? But then I realize that's what everybody else has done, and that's why St. Pete is so big now.
That's what has
So
happened.
many people.
Yes.
I don't know the population, but I know it's tripled what it used to be.
I need to get
I
an
could
update
tell.
on that figure as well. But yes, I think COVID 2020 really, really turned up the volume.
It did. It brought them down because they could work from home.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So.
What's your favorite place to eat in St. Pete?
Oh, I love the Salt Rock Grill
Oh, yeah.
down the Gulf away, and let me see what else do I love. Island Way Grill in Clearwater,
Nice.
and let's see, and downtown in St. Pete, I like the place where you get ceviche. Ceviche.
Yes.
Ceviche.
Yeah, down on
Park Shore Grill too.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Both great spots.
Yeah.
I love ceviche.
Love it. Love it. Love
Yes.
it.
Those are good. Those are
Yeah.
good.
Ceviche was in a different place than that. Did you remember? Were you there?
I wasn't here then, but I do know that.
Yeah.
I've been informed that it was down on the corner there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they did a good move though.
No,
I mean,
it's a nice spot where they're at
I
now.
like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah. If you need to try a bunch of different plates, they got the tapas
Right.
style.
Right.
Yeah. And
Right.
I like their tuna tartare.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. That's good stuff.
Oh, I have
Yeah.
not had that.
You haven't had that?
No, I'm gonna have to have that.
Oh yeah, and you know the strange thing they have? I'm putting them on the map right now, but they have this spinach fig dish where it's just like spinach and honey and some fig. I didn't think it would be good. It is delicious. I didn't know spinach could taste so good.
Yeah, with fig. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds like that would be good.
Yeah. Yes, it's really good. It's really good. So people that are coming to see you, it sounds like some people come for just a regular checkup.
They come for a regular checkup. They demand a body check. Sometimes they come with a specific lesion in mind. That's something that's bothering them that they want off or looked at least. Let's see. Sometimes they come for beauty treatments. We have this one machine that does micro needling with radio frequency. So they get this machine that gets put all over their face with all these little needles and the electrical current going through the needles, and it tightens their skin. So several treatments like that, and they can erase 5-10 years.
5-10 years.
Yeah.
Send them back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And let's see what else. They'll come specifically because their sister made them come, and or their brother made them come, or they'll be a teenager, and I'll be like, "Why are you here?" I don't know. Ask my mom. And then because the teenage boys, they don't care about acne that much. They're like,
yeah.
"It's only acne.
Right.
My mom made me come."
Yep. But mom wants to get them cleaned up.
But the girls are a little more persnickety. They don't want like one pimple. So,
I haven't heard someone else use that word, and I use that all the time.
Yes.
Do I not say persnickety?
See there?
What? Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, but I sometimes you work with some of those people that are persnickety.
Persnickety.
Yeah, it's a good word. It's a good word.
I'm persnickety. I think it's a good trait.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, you like what you like.
Mhm.
You have your standards.
That's right.
That's nothing wrong with that.
That's right.
So people want to find you, Divine Dermatology. You have a website.
We do. It's divinedermatology.com.
.com.
DIVINE dermatology.
Can they book an appointment through there? What's the
They
best way?
can. They can book an appointment. They can send us an email through there with question, what have you. Oh, that's the best way.
Okay. But if they want to see you, that's going to be a ways out because you're going to be at the beach eating a ice cream
that
cone.
might be. It might be. They might have a little wait to see me, but they can also go on the no show, no call list because there's a list that we keep where we call the next person in line who can fill an empty spot. Come on in. Doctor's here waiting for you.
Okay. Okay. That's good to know.
Yeah,
Good to
and
know.
we welcome them all ages, all races, all creeds, all colors.
I love it. I love
Okay.
it. I love it.
All
I
right.
appreciate that. So if people are still listening and they made it this far, I asked them to leave in the comments one word so that way we know if they made it. What word should they put in the comments if they're still listening?
If they're still listening, I want a body check. One word.
One word?
One
You
word.
can spell it as one word. I want a body check.
Skin.
Skin. If you're still with us, put skin in the
Put
comments.
Skin.
Hashtag I want a body check. Go, go check out Divine Dermatology. Dr. Carol Sims, thank you so much for being on here and
My
informing
pleasure.
us of all the crazy
My
things that can go on with our skin and our bodies. Wear your sunscreen, folks. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, share with a friend, and let us know who else we should have on here. Thank you so much. We'll see you here on the next one.
Ooh.
She's going to take our picture. Thank you so much. How was that?
I liked it.
Yeah, I'm like...